If I could sit down with my 25-year-old self for just 5 minutes, I wouldn't talk about getting rich. I wouldn't talk about buying Bitcoin early. I wouldn't talk about working harder. And I definitely wouldn't talk about luxury cars or dream houses. I'd talk about fear. The fear of opening medical bills. The fear of checking your retirement account at 67 and realizing it's not enough. The fear of wanting to stop working, but not being able to afford to. Because one day, whether you're ready or not, the future arrives. And the scary part is this. Most financial disasters don't happen because people are stupid. They happen because people think they still have time. Recently, older Americans were asked a simple question. If you could go back and give your younger self financial advice, what would you say? Their answers were brutally honest. Some lost tens of thousands of dollars to debt. Some watched medical bills destroy their savings. Some retired early and regretted it almost immediately. And almost all of them said the same thing. I wish I had started sooner. So today, we're going to walk through the biggest money regrets retirees have, and the lessons they desperately wish younger people understood before it's too late. Because the truth is, retirement is not an age. It's a financial condition, and millions of people are entering it completely unprepared. One retiree said something that shocked me. He withdrew his entire 401k at once to help buy a house. At the time, it felt smart, responsible even. But then came the taxes. Because retirement accounts aren't just piles of money sitting there waiting for you. They're protected under tax rules. And when you suddenly pull out a huge amount all at once, the government notices immediately. His tax bill exploded. What was supposed to help him build stability ended up setting him back financially for years. And this happens more often than people think. A lot of younger workers treat retirement accounts like emergency savings accounts. But retirees consistently warn against this. Your future self needs that money more than your present self wants it. Another retiree said, "The biggest financial advantage I ever had was time, and I wasted too much of it." That's the real power of retirement investing. Not genius, not stock picking, not luck, time. Because money invested in your 20s has decades to grow. And most people completely underestimate what that means. One woman talked about having $6,000 sitting in an account for years because she didn't know what to do with it. Eventually, she worked with a financial advisor and invested it properly. Years later, it had grown into more than $40,000. Not because she became a millionaire overnight, but because compound growth quietly did the heavy lifting. That's the part nobody explains when you're young. We think wealth comes from giant breakthroughs. But most retirement wealth comes from boring consistency. Automatic contributions, long-term investing, patience. That's why so many retirees say the same thing. Open the Roth IRA now. Not next year. Not after your promotion. Not after you figure life out. Now. Because every year you delay costs more than you realize. And employer matching in a 401k? That's free money. Some people literally walk away from thousands of dollars because they never contribute enough to get the company match. Imagine your employer offering part of your salary, and you simply saying no. That's essentially what happens. One retiree described credit card debt as a fire that spreads while you sleep. That line stuck with me, because debt rarely destroys people dramatically. It destroys them slowly. One missed payment becomes interest. Interest becomes stress. Stress becomes more bad decisions. And suddenly, years pass before you feel financially stable again. High-interest debt is especially dangerous because it grows faster than most people can realistically earn. One older man talked about nearly losing his farm because of loans that spiraled out of control. At first, he believed he could manage it. Most people do. But debt has momentum. And once it gains enough speed, it becomes emotionally exhausting. That's another thing retirees warn about constantly. Don't make financial decisions emotionally. Fear causes people to panic sell investments. Pride causes people to overspend. Stress causes people to ignore problems until they become disasters. Financial survival often comes down to emotional control, not intelligence. One of the hardest truths retirees talked about was health. Because nobody plans to get sick. One person said, "I never imagined cancer would become part of my retirement plan." Even with insurance, surgeries, medications, treatments, and deductibles can wipe out savings frighteningly fast. And when health problems arrive, income often disappears at the exact same time expenses skyrocket. That combination destroys people financially. A lot of younger people assume retirement planning is mostly about investing. But retirees often say the same thing. Your health is part of your financial plan. Because medical debt is one of the fastest ways to lose decades of savings. And the older you get, the more valuable your health becomes. Not just emotionally, financially. One illness can change the trajectory of your entire future. Most young people imagine retirement as freedom, sleeping in, traveling, relaxing. But many retirees describe something very different. Loneliness, loss of purpose, loss of structure. One retiree said, "When you stop working, the world slowly stops needing you." That's a painful sentence. And for many people, work provides more than income. It provides identity, routine, community. Some retirees said they tried returning to work later in life, only to discover how difficult it is to get hired in your 60s, especially for office jobs. Age discrimination may not always be openly discussed, but many older workers feel it constantly. Companies often prefer younger employees who seem cheaper, healthier, and easier to mold. That realization terrifies many retirees, because eventually the fear changes. When you're young, you fear not having enough money. When you're older, you fear outliving the money you already saved. And that fear can quietly follow people every single day. But the most emotional advice retirees gave wasn't about money. It was about regret. One man said he spent decades chasing stable income while abandoning the things he truly loved: music, creativity, adventure. And by the time he had financial security, he no longer had the energy to fully enjoy life. That's the danger. Sometimes people become so focused on surviving financially that they accidentally stop living emotionally. Now, obviously, passion alone doesn't pay bills. But retirees repeatedly said this. Don't build a life you constantly need to escape from. Because eventually, time becomes more valuable than income. And in the end, many people said their proudest achievement wasn't wealth at all. It was raising good children, building meaningful relationships, staying curious about life. Those were the things that mattered most. Not the car, not the title, not the status symbols. So if there's one message hidden inside all these retirement regrets, it's this. Your future is being built right now. By the money decisions you ignore. By the debt you normalize. By the years you assume you still have. The people who suffer the most financially in old age usually didn't expect it to happen to them. That's what makes this dangerous. Nobody thinks they'll be the one struggling at 70. Until suddenly they are. So start earlier than you think you need to. Invest consistently. Protect your health. Avoid high-interest debt. And don't trade your entire life away for a paycheck that leaves your soul empty. Because one day, your older self will look back at the decisions you're making today. And the question is, will they feel grateful or full of regret?
I'm Suri. And before you go, if this video gave you a new perspective or helped you think differently about money, life, or success, then maybe this channel is worth being part of. I spend hours researching, writing, and creating every single video, not just for views, but to create something meaningful, something real. So if you'd like to support the journey, subscribe and let's grow wiser together. Thank you for being here.